It's a huge honor for me to be here. I think anytime we think about building something and we're attempting to do something a little bit new, not novel certainly to shepherd, but when you want to build anything, you want to find the people that care. And so this Saturday morning, being here with you guys and knowing that you guys care enough to come out, that this topic and the vision of our church is important to you means so much. I'm so thankful to be here with you guys. What I'm going to attempt to do, as Pastor Harold outlined for us through the scripture, really why and who we look to in shepherding. I want to share a little bit about my experience and my personal kind of things that I've received, taken away, learned through the shepherding and being shepherded. So I want you guys just for a minute, if we had enough time, I'd ask you guys to actually kind of share, but I want you to just take a minute and think about who is the closest thing to a shepherd in your life, or a mentor, or a role model for you, and why. Just think about that for a second. Who would you say, if you were to turn to your neighbor, is your role model or a mentor, someone who's coached you that you would go to? And why? Why is it that person? For me, I've had a lot of good shepherds in my life. I think the Lord knew this one is going to need a lot or he ain't going to make it. So I really genuinely, through the course of my life, have had some really, really amazing shepherds. And the main point that I want to share with you guys, the main thing or phrase that I would want us to leave with from my personal experience that I can share is, we all need to be shepherded, and we all need to become shepherds. We all need to be shepherded. We all need to become shepherds. The first thing that I want to just kind of touch on, and I've got 3 bullets that I want to share on this one really quickly, is 3 things that I saw in shepherds that most were impactful and beneficial. Okay, number 1, they got to know me, and they showed a genuine interest. So just think about, how many decisions do you make a day? Okay? How many things are you interested throughout the course of your day? How many responsibilities do you have, duties, deadlines? How many things that need to get fulfilled, and people are waiting on you, on me? And then imagine a person that stands before you and asks you to sit down and say, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? And what are you learning these days? How's your heart? That's so powerful, and that kind of bonding connection, that relationship lasts a lifetime. So I would ask you, do you know where to go? If something were to come up and you needed emotional help, guidance, do you know who you would call, where you would go? And these types of people in our life that show this type of genuine interest, they get nothing from you, they get nothing from me. They're not out to gain something, but they care about you. And that's something that I've experienced in my life and has really changed me and my life. So the first thing is they get to know you, show genuine interest. The second thing that I'll mention is they spoke to me with truthfulness and a loving spirit. We often say in the church, truth and love. This is not the same as never being offended or our feelings being hurt, right? But I was told this by a mentor, someone who I greatly respected. He said, in the context of a relationship, you'd be surprised what can be said. And I have found that to be profoundly true in my life. When you know someone who loves you, once again, they get nothing by caring for you, caring for me. It's incredible how much I'm willing to listen, right? So sometimes there are things that sting, sometimes there are things that I don't want to hear, I wasn't ready to hear, but they spoke to me with this spirit of love, and they were truthful. Some of my shepherds over the course of my life, here are some things that I've heard that's changed my life. You think you listen, but you don't. You don't really listen. Hey, you think you're wise, but I got to tell you, if you can say it well, but you don't do it, That's not really wise. These are things I've heard, okay? How about I've heard this one by some of my shepherds. You're not very kind or gracious. You're a little too harsh. And I still am today. I'm still working on that one. Actually, all of them. Definitely on that one. You don't fully trust God. You have a lot of anxiety. You seem to want to control things. The last one, this one, mind-blowing to me when I first heard it. He said, you value the approval of others far too much. And that's going to rob you of your peace and your joy. But my shepherds, our shepherds, are there to, in love, speak to us with love and kindness, right? And how important is that if we're going to grow? The third thing that I'll mention that I saw shepherds do that were most valuable and impactful for me is that no matter what, they always believed in my value. Do you have someone like that in your life? I've made lots of costly mistakes in my life. My shepherds always supported me. They met with me. They coached me. They listened to me. They valued me as a friend and a child of God. They never, ever abandoned me. They didn't condone my mistakes, but they never left me, no matter what. Regardless of how I felt or how I thought other people felt about me, they stuck by me. And this is so powerful. Sometimes they would come around me in those moments and they would laugh with me. Other times they would cry with me, but they were always with me. Always with me. Recently I had a friend. He was in a lot of pain. And he made a really big transition in his life. He's a young man, but he got married. And man, the first year of marriage is so hard. It's so hard. You're seeing things about yourself. You're learning to compromise. You're learning to apologize. These are new things being exposed. It's so hard. And, sometimes you can see the countenance on your friend, and you know something is wrong, something's off. He was retreating from some friends, small group, and we do that, right? We tend to kind of isolate and hide a bit when we don't feel like we're good enough. And I eventually asked him to come over. He came over, and he started to share with me that he had been realizing what a horrible man he is and a husband he is. And he actually literally told me that he spent the week searching videos on how to be a better Christian husband. I mean, how precious is that he would do that? And I listened to him. We talked. We cried together. We prayed together. And I told him, I said, you might not feel like this, but you were made for this. You made a vow to be sanctified together. And you'll get through this. We'll walk together. Said, you got to come out to small group. I said, you got to find it within you to share and allow your brothers to pray for you and for them to be able to share and speak into your life. He was so humble, and an amazing thing happened. He came to small group, and he shared with us about what he was going through. And I can see him as he was sharing, him trying to muster and should I say, and share as much as he can. And you better believe we had an awesome small group that night. The guys were blessed. I was so proud of him. Shepherds know you matter, right? They're willing to fight for you and protect you and fight with you. So those three things, things that I saw in shepherds that were most valuable, impactful, beneficial, things that shepherds would do for us that we will learn to do for others. We get to know each other. We speak in truthfulness and in loving spirit, and no matter what, you stick by them. You stick by each other. Three things that I want to share how I've grown as a result of this, as a result of having good shepherds in my life. The first thing is growth in self-awareness. self-awareness in a lot of ways it's kind of like emotional heart surgery, right? And I'm not a surgeon, but I know you can't really do it on yourself. You can't do it alone. And self-awareness is an incredible, amazing thing. In any walk of life, relationship, or business, kind of honestly knowing yourself is one of the most important things, like, ever. I think self-awareness is so amazing. Have you guys ever talked to someone and they kind of like warn you? They go, hey, don't be offended. I might interrupt, or I might sound coarse, but like, don't be offended, okay? That even that level of self-awareness, it actually helps. You kind of go like, oh, like, so he knows he's kind of like that, and he's sort of working on it. So it relieves you to know that they kind of know themselves, right? So self-awareness, I think when you have awareness of yourself, you realize how you affect the room, the people you're around. Maybe you're abrupt, coarse, critical, defensive. Maybe you don't have good hygienes, I don't know. But when you know these things and you're honest with each other, it's people, when we are self-aware, that we grow the most, we grow the fastest, right? We're the first ones to be able to say, thanks so much, man. I don't think I could have done that on my own. Thank you for coming alongside me and doing it with me. Self-awareness is so important, so huge. And with a good shepherd, where does this come from? How does this happen without realizing, without the help of another person, without a trusted relationship and a shepherding type that sometimes is willing to help you see things that we're missing? The second thing that I received through shepherds, a way that I've grown, is developed a desire for constant, healthy growth and change. Okay, a desire to keep growing, getting better, improving. When I had these relationships with shepherds who loved me, cared about me, would look at me and say, "How are you doing? Hey, you might want to look at this. Hey, are you still struggling with this? Is this still an issue? Hey, how have you been doing with that thing that you've..." When you have relationships like this, you grow, you change, and you develop. It's like this pilot light goes on, right? And that pilot light or that switch doesn't turn off once it's on. If you look after it, you care for it. People who are constantly growing are just some of the most people you want to continue to be friends with, grow with, do projects with, do things with, because they're growing, they're learning, they're getting better. When we're in a shepherding relationship, for me, I learned that I don't have all the answers. I need help to process, see things that are in my blind spot. I have friends now, due to these types of relationship, that stoke this fire, that turned on this pilot light. Literally, when I'm just with them, it's not even intentional per se anymore. I'm just soaking in. I'm learning from them just by being with them. We're hanging out, and I'm listening to something he's sharing about what he's learning in his marriage. He's talking about what he's learning, maybe something happened at work. He's talking to me about something that he learned or she's kind of struggling through in parenting. And I'm just soaking it in. I'm learning, but we develop this posture. We become that way where we want to grow by having shepherds, right? Because if we know everything, we don't have shepherds. Why would we want to learn sometimes? I think the third way that I've grown is, I'd say, emulation and imitation. It's a natural response of love when we're really cared for. I think a natural response when you're given a chance, you're going to imitate the person and that type of kindness. When you're in a shepherding relationship, the most natural thing is to want to be like them. I've had shepherds, older brothers. I admired them. They touched me in these ways, reached out to me, cared for me, prayed for me. And I knew, I can even think back to my youth group days, to my college. I knew I wanted to be like them. I knew I wanted to talk like them, sound like them. I couldn't believe some of the things that they would say to me, that they would dare and ask. And I knew I wanted to be like that. So then I would make friends. And as I made friends and I would see the opportunity, I find myself saying things that they said to me that touched me. I find myself reaching out the way that my shepherds did for me. I actually find myself sort of channeling their voice with my son. And I know that if I didn't have good shepherds in my life, that is not the voice I would be shepherding or channeling with my son at home. But that's how much when we have shepherds in our lives and we have these relationships, I think it impacts us so deeply and widely. Some of us might be saying, "I can't shepherd. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm going to do this." I would say it might be because we haven't allowed ourselves to be shepherded. And maybe some of us would be, when I look at you, you look like a great shepherd. It looks so natural, and you're doing a great job at it. I would be willing to guess that at some point you've had a good one in your life, and you caught something. So those three things I really learn and I appreciate. Growth and self-awareness, develop the desire to constantly grow and change, and also to imitate, something I wanted to naturally be like. The last thing in closing that I want to share is that shepherding changes a person's life, and Christ Central is about changed lives. It literally changes lives. This shepherding thing, caring for each other, having someone care for you, us caring for someone else, it literally can change a life. I have a friend, I love this guy, and was dealing with a ton of pressure and anxiety. And he's one of those guys who puts a ton of pressure on himself. He's an anxious type, and I can really relate to that. I struggle with control, releasing things. Have I done enough? I think about all the things that are mounting. Have I saved enough, stored enough? Am I doing enough? And I could relate to him, and we've related on so many topics like that. And at one point in my life, in my late 20s and early 30s, I was under so much constant, a lot of it brought on by myself, but constant stress for a prolonged period. I was losing hair. I had patches of hair missing. Literally, my haircut, Ajuma, she was like, "Hey, are you aware you have like dollar-sized bald spots?" And she was literally like changing my hairstyle. She was like, "No, we're not going that short there, bro. Like, we're gonna do this." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And we laughed, right? And it's funny sounding. My eye would constantly twitch, and on my right arm, I was shaking. It felt like I was getting like Parkinson's or something. And I honestly was so stressed, and I was constantly always tired. I thought I was dying. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know if I needed to go get checked out. But in any case, my wife in the morning said that my friend, his wife, had called and said that she was worried for her husband. And it took me back, because I'll never forget the sensation of that kind of stress and fear and anxiety. And I knew immediately, I said, "Man, I need to talk to him." And so I went to the office, and I just felt a strong sense from the Lord to call him. So it's Saturday about 8:45, and I called him. He picked up, and I said, "Bro, don't say anything. Just listen and just agree with me. Because sometimes we just don't have the words, and someone needs to say the words that we feel." So we prayed, and we said, "God, no one owns us but you. You're our Father. You're a good shepherd. People may try to sabotage us, but God, you own us. You lead us. I'm in your hands." And we prayed. And at the end, I said, "Amen." And he said, "Amen." And it was a couple of quiet moments. And then he said, "Bro, I don't know what that was. No one's ever done that for me. But thanks." And we have that forever. And I know, I'm fully confident that one day he'll do that for somebody else. But where did that come from? I've literally had older brothers pray over me, hands on me my whole life. They've done that for me so many times when I had no words. Shepherding changes lives. We want to see lives changed. The last story I'll share, and I'm through, but there was another guy. He went through the darkest year of his life ever. Couldn't dream or imagine that he would go through what he was going through. It was in a season of his life where he actually was avoiding and isolating and not listening to the shepherding voices in his life. His wife left him. He got in a relationship that he probably shouldn't have. And he was under immeasurable pain, shame, and guilt. Then his shepherds and friends gathered around him. There were many talks, many tears, a lot of naps on his friend's couch, lots of meals from his friend's wife, lots of movies, lots of ball games sitting there together, not saying a word. Healing happened over time. Slowly he re-entered into the church community and found his first love. Man, he loved being there. God healed him, and now, I see him, and God's using those pains to reach others. And today, he has never been happier, and I know this because that guy's me. So it might take 5 years, might take 10 years, might take 15 years, but shepherding changes the entire trajectory of a person's life. Shepherding can change lives. We want to be about changed lives. We're called to be shepherds and to become shepherds. We're called to be shepherded and to become shepherds. And I'm excited to do with this, you guys, and I'm excited for the next couple of years. Thank you.